Okay, y'all ready? So one more compound inequality, this time with fractions and fun. So like always, when I have fractions around, I want to clear fractions, find my lowest common denominator. I would encourage you guys to pause the video in a moment and see if you can figure out what the lowest common denominator is. All right, whether you pause the video or not, I'm still here. And in this case, lowest common denominator is 6, mainly because, sorry, my lack of sleep last night just hit my brain. If you could see the things that I'm not posting and recording, it's a comedy of errors over here. Anyway, so let me try this again. 6 is the lowest common denominator because it's my largest denominator. It's where I start, but without having to multiply anything up, 3 divides into 6 nicely, 6 divides into 6 nicely, and 2 divides into 6 nicely. So I didn't have to scale up and go to 12 or 18 or anything like that. Okay, so now, next step. We're going to multiply every term by this lowest common denominator, whether it's got a fraction or not. So I'm going to multiply this left side by 6. Within the middle, I'm going to have to multiply everything in the middle to be fair. But that's going to include this 2 and then this gross fraction here. They both are going to get multiplied by 6. And then, of course, this right side is going to get multiplied by 6. So here comes the ASMR part where I just click and write and ruin the ASMR by narrating over it. 6 times negative 2/3 is less than or equal to 6 times 2. That's ugly, but we're just going to leave it. It's not 6.2. It's 6 times 2 plus 6 times this 8 minus 3x over 6 is less than or equal to LCD 6 times right side 7 over 2. Okay, so like every other example, we're multiplying through by 6 to get rid of all the possible division. 3 will go into 6 twice. 2 times that remaining negative 2 is negative 4. I don't flip because I multiply by positive. Here, 6 times 2, nothing cancels because we're not dividing by anything. So it's just 6 times 2, 12. Plus, this 6 will divide into that 6 one time. 1 times, actually I'm going to go ahead and write that in red. 1 times the remaining 8 minus 3x is going to be just 8 minus 3x. Ugh, that was dumb. Well, whatever. And then 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times that remaining 7 is 21. The reason why I was shaming myself for doing that is now I've got to rewrite that whole line just because I don't want y'all to have to visually unimagine these parentheses. So there's a 1 here times this leftover numerator, 8 minus 3x, but anything times 1 is itself. So here we go. Negative 4 less than or equal to 12 plus 8 minus 3x less than or equal to 21. Okay. Now, in the middle, I have a little bit of simplifying I can do. I have some like terms that can be combined. 12 plus 8, that's math that we can all do. Negative 4 less than or equal to, going to call that 20, minus 3x is less than or equal to 21. Okay, so I know I don't have near enough space to finish this problem on this slide. I'm going to try and go to the next slide. That's where I messed it up on the last video that you guys will never see. Let's see if I can do this successfully. Next slide. Okay, so let's solve for this x. So I'm going to give myself my little visual cue. Separate my left from my right from my middle. Focus on where the x is in the middle. In order to isolate x, I've got to isolate my x term. So I'm going to subtract off this 20 everywhere. Minus 20 from the middle, so minus 20 from the left, minus 20 from the right. I get negative 24. No need to flip for subtraction, so stays less than. Zero out those 20s. Keep the negative 3x, still less than or equal to uno. But now, once again, the only option I really have to solve for, to isolate my x, is to divide everything by negative 3. But since I'm dividing by a negative number, my inequality symbols need to reverse. And so I end up with negative 24 divided by negative 3 is now positive 8. Less than or equal to becomes greater than or equal to. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1 times that x is x. And then finally, 1 divided by negative 3 doesn't really simplify. Oh gosh, I did it, guys. I made a boo-boo, didn't I? That should not be greater than or equal to. That should still be less than or equal to, less than or equal to, negative 1/3 on the right-hand side. Fun and games. I swear I'm not drunk. Just extraordinarily sleep deprived in this particular moment. Greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to. I was right. I just had, I don't know, a stroke or something. Why are they greater than or equal to's? Because I divided by a negative number. Now that we're correct, I want to say that what's written here on this last line, there is nothing mathematically incorrect about it, but it is a little against the flow of how we normally, of the next few steps that we do. Normally we would draw a number line, put our values, shade in between, so on and so forth. But that number line does need to be in increasing order. And our interval notation does need to be in increasing order. So what I'm going to do, just to help the visuals, is I am going to rewrite this compound inequality as the equivalent compound inequality. But I'm going to start with my smallest value, negative 1/3. Okay, so again, I just want to confirm that 8 is greater than any value of x that is also greater than negative 1/3. 8 is greater than or equal to negative 1/3. That is true, and that is correct. But let's start here and reverse everything. So if I'm reversing, that includes reversing my inequality symbols. So here, this greater than or equal to mirror imaged is going to go back to being less than or equal to. X happens to stay in the middle. This greater than or equal to, when I reverse, becomes less than or equal to. And then I finish off with that 8. So now everything that's written is going to line up nicely with my number line. Negative 1/3 there. 8 is right there. X can be any number in between those two, so I'm going to shade everything in between. Both are or equal to, so both get square brackets. And so final answer is square bracket negative 1/3 comma up to positive 8 square bracket to close it up. Final correct answer. Okay, last thing I want to say about this, if I hadn't reversed this and simply done my number line 8, negative 1/3, shade, square bracket, and then done square bracket 8, negative 1/3, I am not going to get this counted correct by my math lab or whichever else, or me, because it should go smallest to largest, and that doesn't do it. So the box in green here is the only correct way to write this in interval notation. Okay, if that's what you got long before I got there, give yourself a high five. Adios.